NSFW, what is the best accidental nudity you have seen? I work at McDonald's, and one day while I was handing a woman her food I saw that she was in the middle of sending nudes. When I was living in New Zealand, one night my roommate brought home some guy from the bar and they had sex on the couch. It just so happened that the couch was on the opposite side of the wall from my bed, so I heard it all. But that's besides the point. The next morning I woke up to a text from a different roommate that there was a naked guy on the couch. I casually went to the bathroom to sneak a peek and there he was, in all his glory, passed out on the couch. The roommate who brought him home was nowhere to be found. We later found her curled up on the bathroom floor, also naked, and now they're married. The end. As a kid, I always went to summer camp in a different state, and we would often take multi-day canoe trips around the general area. On one of these trips, after a long day of paddling down a river, the trip leader decided to stop on an island and set up camp for the night. As the day progressed, the sunshine turned to rain and before we knew it, it was a full-on monsoon. As me and a bunch of other boys huddled under a tarp, someone pointed out two people swimming on the other side of the river. We notice it's two guys and a girl and continue to watch. Before we know it, the girl stands up revealing that she is actually completely nude. In fact, all three were skinny dipping. Being teenage boys, we began to yell and wave at them, asking if they would like any s'mores, while taking turns looking through the binoculars. We thought they would be embarrassed, however, they weren't fazed by this, and one of the dudes began to swim over. I will never forget his face as he got closer and realized we were a bunch of little kids. Needless to say, we gave him a s'more. TL, doctor saw a naked river girl, and fed a naked man a s'more. Sort of accidental. When I was in high school I lived with my dad. Our house had a pool and a hot tub and Pops was a randy old hound. He was scooping it to what seemed like all the divorced ladies in my neighborhood. Being single, well off and having a hot tub really greased the wheels. Anyhow, he and his girlfriends weren't exactly incognito and after a few drinks tended to come in and out of the house, where I was, in varying states of undress to use the bathroom, and get refills or snacks. Let's just say that I saw more of many of my friends' moms than was polite to discuss. I guess it's not really accidental because she dropped hints later that it was intentional, but at the time I thought it was. Went on a date with a co-worker. While waiting for her to get ready in her living room, I could see her fully nude in the reflection in a mirror on a door. She had a ridiculously awesome figure, too. I used to work in an electronics store. We regularly had promo staff and reps in on the weekends to sell their stuff in store. This particular weekend we had 3 models in promoting some camera or other. Late afternoon I go into the customer collections room where reserved stock is kept to look for an item. As I am clearly in there looking for something, these 3 girls burst in and start stripping off their branded dresses to change and go home. In shock I say, "Do you want me to go out?" And they're like, "Nah, it's okay." Then some checkout girl comes in and laughs, gasps and drags me out. Gutted. When I was about 6 I was at the ocean with parents. My dad was playing with me in the breaking waves on the beach. I saw a rough wave wash over this young lady a few feet from us and it totally swept her bikini bottom off. I couldn't believe it, and no one, including her, seemed to be aware for several long seconds. It was a massive late 1970s bush. I saw it before my dad and pointed and yelled, "Look at the hair." My dad was up to speed quickly and swept me up facing me the other way as a guy apparently with the woman somehow found her bikini before it was lost forever. She was sitting down in the water when he brought them over and said, "You lose something?" I learned a lot that day. I was on a Mediterranean cruise in summer so the top deck was filled with people sunbathing. This one lady with rather large boobs was sunbathing with her family and taking off her bikini straps as some of them do to avoid tan lines, I guess. Anyway, she accidentally dropped it and I got a full-on view of one of her boobs. She looked around to see if anybody noticed, caught my eye and gave me a cheeky grin before I looked away blushing. When I was working as a PA on a TV show, we filmed an episode at a fashion show. I spent the evening wandering around backstage getting models to sign releases. Most of them were naked or half naked. Best work day of my life. Was working in my fish and chip shop, and just across the road is a bunch of terrace houses. The windows upstairs start on the floor, but I assume the girl had no idea. My mum actually pointed it out to me, and it was a girl butt naked in front of her window. The guys in the garage around the corner was walking down the street opposite of her window and got an eyeful too. I later learned she was the sister of a guy I went to school with. When I was a junior in high school, I had a math teacher that was probably in her late 20s or early 30s. One day near the end of the first semester, she was wearing a dress of sorts. It was in Florida, so it wasn't getting cold at all, and she was trying to reach something off the top shelf near her desk when the two straps holding up her dress just snapped and the entire dress fell to her feet. Sure, she was still wearing panties, but the dress didn't hide bra straps, and well, that was nice. I didn't have her the second semester, but from what I heard, she got in some trouble for wearing inappropriate attire for a teacher and had been suspended for the first month of the semester. I installed security alarms, cameras, sensors, locks. On one install, I placed a camera in the master bedroom like the husband had asked. While I was still there installing, I was checking the cameras and finishing up the tests, and the wife came out of the bathroom completely naked from the shower. I hastily tried to exit the screen, but the husband, who was peering over my shoulder, told me not to and just stared at his naked wife while I was in between him and the screen. Edit. Thank you /u/ResiTip for assisting kindly to the correction of my spelling. Edit 2. I did not have sex with either of them. That time was at an indoor water park waiting in line for the attraction that simulates surfing, Flow Rider I think. Well, there was this really cute girl up and she bails face first. Now if you know of these attractions, you know that there is a lot of force behind the water. As it turns out, it is enough force to completely remove a person's bikini, both top and bottom. Must have been really embarrassing for her, but I liked the piercings. Not sure if you can say accidentally, but my neighbor used to be a manager for, exotic dancers. One day I'm out in my garden and happened to look up at their back bedroom. That was when I discovered where auditions took place. I got a lot of fresh air from that day on. Around 16 at the time, I left my house after my sister and her two friends came over, one of which is just absolutely banging with an amazing body that I may have thought about once or twice. Anyway, nobody else was home. Forgot something in my room, so I ran back in, but I guess nobody heard me come in. I walk down the hallway to my room and pass my sister's doorway that was open. I glance over and my brain locks me into place mid-stride. Jaw hits the floor while it burns the image of her butt naked cupping her breasts. They all look over at me and scream. I can't look away. She runs toward me and closes the door. I ran to my room, took a few minutes to savor what I saw, and left. Edit. They're all 3 years older. Edit 2/u/O's to 195 is much prettier and smarter than said naked lady. Edit 3. Thanks for the gold, friend. Edit 4. My sister was not naked. I was about 10 and we went snorkeling with a group on vacation. This old unattractive woman's breast popped out while she was underwater. She didn't notice. I couldn't stop staring. First real boobs I ever saw. My sister and her boyfriend were having sex. It was hard to tell with the noise. Well, after an hour I hear her door close and I think, thank God he left, I can take a shit now. I walk into the bathroom, drop my pants in the dark and start to squat when the light turns on and her boyfriend walks out naked full stuff and says, ready for more. I stare just in shock and he now realizes that I am not my sister, just coughs and walks away. I no longer feel safe to shit in my own bathroom. Pull my pants up and just go bed. Female friend of mine was getting ready for her sister's wedding. She was sending me snaps of herself asking questions like necklace or no to me and her BF, and she accidentally sent me a picture of her tits hanging out in the dress she was wearing. Edit. Trust me, she did not intend on sending me that pic. 10/10. Work at a hotel on the beach. Usually, Every night before I leave I take a walk around the building, just make sure everything is okay, people are quiet, etc. All of our rooms have balconies, but luckily the way our building is set up you can't see into another balcony from another balcony. Earlier that day I had a newlywed couple checking in. All went normal then. Later that night, did my rounds, and I saw them on their balcony. He's leaning up against a patio chair turned backwards, pants pulled down, and she's sitting on the chair, giving him head. Okay, for all purposes that's technically an evictable offense, but I just remembered they're a newlywed couple. No one else can see them on their balcony the way our building is configured, so I just turned around, walked back inside, and let it be. At least I know their marriage got off to a good start, hopefully it stayed that way. During college, I was drunk at a party that ended up moving to a local bar. One of the hot girls in the class ahead of mine came up to me and this other dude. The other dude, I guess, had a bet with her or something and took her walking up as the perfect time to remind her. He said, "Remember, you still need to flash me for who care what it was." I might be paraphrasing. She gives him an annoyed look and then just flashes the both of us for a good 5 to 10 seconds. Very nice boobs would look again. My wife used to do triathlons, the sprint and Olympic lengths, not Ironmans. She was doing a women's only sprint triathlon and I'm hanging out near her bike waiting for her to return from the swim, first leg of the race. The most experienced athletes bike and run in their one-piece swimsuit. Inexperienced people take the time to change their clothes. There was a young woman on her late 20s changing nearby my wife. Obviously new to this stuff, she had planned a different set of clothes for each activity. She had some friends holding up towels to shield her while she changed from her swimsuit to her bicycling gear. She got the suit off and struggled to get her bike shorts on over her wet legs while crouching behind the towels. Then she just said, "Oh fuck it," stood up bare-chested and proceeded to struggle with her athletic bra. She had a nice all-over tan, I'll give her that much. Walking to school on a soggy morning, saw my art teacher in her minivan changing her clothes. Normally, you can't really see into the side passenger area windows well because they were semi-tinted a deeper color, but it just stopped raining a bit earlier and the sun came through the clouds and shined down on the car, lighting it and the area in general up very bright and I could see right into the car window. Mind you, my art teacher was 29 at the time, fit and moderately attractive. Full on boobies. I was 14, in 9th grade. Probably one of the best days at school followed thereafter. I was in middle school and I was walking behind a girl in high school who was wearing a dress with no panties. The wind picked up when we got off the train and I thought I was the only one who noticed. She didn't even seem to care. Later I found out that another boy saw it too, and we are best friends to this day. I was at my friend's beach house when I was 16. He had a really hot sister that was about 20 at the time. We were watching TV in the living room and she comes in to hang out with us wearing a t-shirt and loose-fitting boy shorts. Looked more like boxers, to be honest. She sat near me and put her legs up in such a way that I had a marvelous view of her lady parts through the baggy leg of the shorts. I tried not to stare, but it was pretty cool when I was 16. My dad lived a few towns over from my mom, so I didn't really know anyone in his neighborhood. I was about 13 at the time and there was a high school girl that lived across the street from him. She'd get changed almost every night in front of her big open windows and I watched every time I was there. Smoking hot girl going down a water slide. Her bikini top got caught and came off. She had some very nice boobs. My buddy once accidentally Snapchatted his nude to me and our group of friends instead of his girlfriend. Handed the Verizon guy my phone to get it turned back on. Opened Safari and first thing that popped up was the best pic of my boobs to date. We both just laughed it off. I was in London, and my sister and I got last-minute tickets to see Patrick Stewart in A Life in the theatre. We had amazing seats, 3rd or 4th row center. So at one point during the play, Patrick Stewart sits down on a folding chair, right in the center, in front of us. He was wearing loose shorts. And his fucking balls were showing through the shorts. They were huge. It was glorious and incredibly awkward at the same time. The whole scene, he's just balls out. I still can't look at him without thinking, dude, I saw your balls. When I was in 3rd grade we had a really pretty, red-headed student teacher. I can't remember her name, but I remember she was teaching us French for some reason. Apparently she spoke it really well. I'm not sure why that'd be part of the 3rd grade experience. One day she came over to help me at my desk with something and leaned on my desk and bent over. For whatever reason, she decided not to wear a bra that day, and right in front of my face, swinging in her dress, were the biggest boobs I had seen up to that point. It was glorious. I truly believe that event changed me and set the type of women I've been into ever since. It was certainly a formative experience. At a party in HS, my best friend got hammered and passed out in the front lawn halfway through. I was hanging with my other buddy and his GF, who was also hammered, when he decided to go check on my best friend. He asked me to make sure his GF didn't do anything stupid while he was gone. She flashed me. I failed him. Saw a hot chick accidentally pull her shirt up when taking off a sweater. She wasn't wearing a bra. My life isn't very exciting. Lol. Maybe not accidental, per se, but definitely unexpected. In April of 1999, when I was in 6th grade, my entire class had a massive field trip to Yellowstone National Park. It was part of a program called Expedition Yellowstone, and it, I believe, was funded in part by grants of some sort. Anyway, my small school in the rural South got to send the entire 6th grade, about 50 students, to Yellowstone every year for like 5 or 6 years, and I got to go. We traveled by charter bus, thankfully, as opposed to school bus for the 36-plus-hour road trip, stopping for fast food, usually McDonald's, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner during the trip. We had stopped in Lincoln, Nebraska at a strip mall, where some of the out parcels were fast food restaurants. We all went into whichever fast food joint we wanted. There were a couple to choose from, with our designated chaperones, ate, and came back out to the buzz. Now, this particular strip mall where the McDonald's was located was also home to a bar called Critters. We were sitting on the bus waiting for the rest of the group to come out and reboard so we could leave, when a couple of well-endowed young women come out of the bar towards another charter bus which was also sitting in the parking lot. I can only assume that they got the two buses confused, or they thought our bus was full of their friends, or were just drunk. It was still daylight BTW. I don't know. But these two young women decided to raise their shirts and flash our bus full of 6th graders. It wasn't just a brief flash either. No, this was a lift your shirt and shake them titties kind of flash that you would normally see in a Girls Gone Wild video. Chaos ensues on our bus. Teachers, chaperones, counselors, parents, and probably even the bus driver as well, were all running and diving into the aisles of the bus, trying frantically and unsuccessfully to cover the eyes of all these innocent 12-year-olds, but we were having none of it. It was the highlight of the trip, and we were barely halfway there on a 2-week-long expedition. This includes our bus getting trapped in a whiteout blizzard in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming on the way back, limping back to the closest town, and sleeping on the floor in the high school gymnasium. Next came the jokes, which you'd expect from a bunch of pre-adolescent kids. The Grand Tetons, the Twin Peaks, etc. It was awesome, and I dare say it was a seminal moment for many of us. Our high school graduating class recently had our 10-year reunion a couple years ago, and this story was retold more than once. When I was like 8 or 9, I was being driven by my mom somewhere, and staring out the window. In the car right next to us at a stoplight, this gorgeous blonde just casually takes off her shirt, removes her bra, then puts a new shirt on. My jaw was on the floor. Mom didn't even notice. I'll never forget it. #winning. I delivered pizza for 7 years. I was a freshman at Louisiana State University a few years ago, living in the all-male honor dorms. During the first couple of weeks of school I'd made friends with a couple of girls who roomed together and were friends from the same high school. They had a third roommate because they had a corner dorm room and it was huge. All girls dorm, so I had to be signed in and out. But it was a spacious place to chill, big as it was. So one night I'm in there with friends hanging out. It's around 730 or so. Dining hall just cleared out. So the dorm is packed with girls hanging out and watching TV. And also showering. The fire alarm goes off. Panic ensues as people scramble out of the communal spaces and dorm rooms and also the showers. Positioned as I was at the end of the hallway, because the dorm room we were in was in the corner, I saw 8 girls in various stages of undress, wet and slippery, from half nude to utterly naked, running toward and from me. I had been in university a few weeks. I thought this was just the beginning. Nothing but nudity from here on out, boys. Didn't quite work out that way. But I'll never forget that one night it just so happened to. I once fell over in class and managed to land right underneath a classmate's skirt. She was so firm all over, I was kind of impressed more than aroused. Looking back on it, it was like some kind of a rom-com situation. Walked into bathroom at my best friend's house when I was 12 years old. I saw his older sister in tub. We made eye contact. Fast forward 8 years, she now is Instagram famous with a few 100,000 followers. We both know I was first to see the goods, but stopped being friends with brother, so never again frown. I think my best and worst accidental nudity is the same story. I was in my car with my now husband getting ready to leave the parking lot of a Lowe's, when we looked up and saw a couple trying to put a carpet on their car. First of all, they were trying to strap a 9X12 rug into the roof of a retired police issue Crown Vic, which was odd enough. My husband wanted to see how they were gonna pull this off, so we stayed in the car to watch the spectacle. They started to unroll the carpet, which is when the girl bent over, in her short summer dress. Sans underwear. So I'm 20 feet from bear snatch, in broad daylight, in a hardware store parking lot. It was gynecological. To quote Future, she was butthole naked. Only my windshield stood between her birth canal and the two of us. I think both of us simultaneously yelped with surprise when it happened, at which point my husband remarked, "I can see the bottom of her brain from here." Watched our 19-year-old neighbor and her 2 friends hop over the big stone fence in our backyard and promptly shed all of their clothes to put on bathing suits and swim in our pool while my family was out of town. Guess they didn't know I was there playing Warcraft 3 instead of on vacation. Edit: I never said anything or told her, and really didn't leave the house/my room that whole week, so they probably never even suspected. I was 14 at the time, a sophomore in high school. She had been a senior at my school when I was a freshman. She graduated and was then going to a big state university in our city. There's an outdoor shower near the pool too, and I heard them using it later that night but couldn't get up to look as Frozen Throne PvP was just too important. Edit: yes, I skipped a grade in middle school. I don't recommend doing it. Being younger during high school and university wasn't that great. I was dating a twin for a short period of time. They still lived with their parents and shared a bedroom. My twin was taking a shower, so I was just chilling in the living room. The parents were out of town for the weekend, so the twins and I had the house to ourselves. The boyfriend of the other twin would come over at a later point that night, but wasn't there yet. After finishing a show on TV, I walked upstairs to go see if she was ready showering, and when I walked into the bedroom I saw her, naked as the day she was born, and I approached her from behind. I cupped her boobs, big boobs, and smelled her wet hair and was about to tell her how nice it smelled when she said wrong twin. Out of shock we both stayed like that for 2 or 3 seconds, then I backed off and asked her never happened. She agreed, and so we've never told my twin. Well, that was almost 10 years ago and we were only dating for a couple of months, so by now she must have told her, I guess. My brother and I once caught a man helping his wife dress behind the toilets at the beach. We caught her fully naked, and the guy just smiled and looked apologetic at my brother and I for some reason. His wife stopped midway, fully embarrassed. We were only kids there. First time I ever saw a woman naked, and my very first boner. Good times. Sorry I don't have anything more exciting. My life's boring. I had a babysitter back when I was younger. I think I was like 8 or something and she was like I think 19. We came back inside from playing outside, and I guess we never saw her come home and she had started showering. I was in the kitchen grabbing some juice boxes from the fridge, and was like I guess hidden behind the door. She walked into the kitchen wearing nothing on her way to her room to get her towel, and she was like why is the fridge door open, tried closing it and I got to see my first pair of titties on the sexiest woman I have ever seen until that point. Before porn and me having internet access, so this was my first experience. Still remember it vividly. So, a couple of years ago I was doing a Christmas concert with my class. We're a music school, so we always do 1 or 2 of them each year. We were upstairs, maybe 15 minutes before the show was going to start, and were switching into our concert clothes, when someone shrieked. For context, this concert took place in a church, and on the other side of the road were some apartments. Everyone rushes to the windows and look outside, where we're greeted with the sight of a totally naked guy talking to a woman cleaning the floor. There was another woman there too, and, unlike the guy, both of the women were fully clothed. This guy just stood there with his dick flopping around, seemingly having a casual conversation with a woman cleaning the floor and another woman just standing around. Needless to say, the adults supervising us closed the blinds very fast, but I know someone left the room because they were laughing so hard. I wonder what they were up to. TL, Dr. Naked Guy casually talking to a woman cleaning the floor and another woman standing around on the other side of the street from a church. Apologies for my very poor English. Worst rather than best. High school track coach called the whole team, guys and girls, into one of the locker rooms for a team meeting. He sat down on a chair in front of all of us and sat in a posture with his knees spread. He was wearing some small shorts and boxers. It didn't take long for everyone to notice that one of his testicles was hanging out. In my freshman year of high school I was in the school play. One of the prettiest senior girls was in it with me, and we both had to do a quick change into some long dresses. I got mine on but she needed help getting her old outfit off. I crawled under the dress to pull down the outfit and off came her underwear with it. I was 3 inches away from some beautiful vag. No one else saw or knew what happened but damn it was nice to see. This was also one of my top this shit just kicked in moments. I was hiking Mount Lafayette and knew that I was nearing the top. It's a decent hike so I was pretty beat and ready for a break. On the last climb I could see a large boulder up ahead that was sitting at the summit. I pushed forward a bit and looked up again toward the boulder. At the base of it was a gorgeous mostly naked girl squatting down. I thought to myself, well this is a hell of a reward for the hike. She then proceeded to stand, zip up a full-body Scooby-Doo costume and walked over to her friends. It was a warm but blustery day on vacation in Burlington, Vermont. As I was eyeballing this gorgeous girl in a flowery sundress, I came to the realization that light flowery dress was a bold move on such a windy day. This led to some mental imaging as to what a perfect gust may expose. I'm not a religious man, but I'll be damned if the Lord didn't answer my prayer with a blast of wind that exposed the ass of an angel at that exact moment. She didn't even flinch and continued her confident stride down the sidewalk as her dress returned to normal and I was left picking my jaw off the floor. Not me, well, sorta me. I was wearing a summer blouse at the dog park and had to pick my dog up to get him out and he wiggled and pulled my boobs out for a flash in the struggle. One of the other guys at the park complimented me. In college one day this super hot girl was walking in front of me. She had a fantastic ass and was wearing a sundress and just looking amazing in general. The dress was pretty thin and she was wearing a solid color thong so you could pretty much see what was up as it is but then. She tripped. Like full on ate shit. She dropped all of her things, and being the gentleman that I am, when I'm not checking out girls' asses, I start jogging towards her to help out. As she's getting up though, she arches her back and her sundress is flipped up so everything is exposed. So for the few seconds it took me to catch up to her, I got to take in the glorious view. At a Renaissance festival I saw a hypnotist hypnotize a woman to make her believe it was a hot, sunny day and she was on a boat alone. She started stripping naked and got her shirt off before the hypnotist woke her up. The female Asian principal of the middle school I worked at over 10 years ago had a nudie shot of herself on the school's network. The dum-dum that ran the network could only get it to work if everyone logged in as admin. So she and her husband were nudists, had to fix their computer years before I worked at the school and accidentally saw what Usenet news groups they read, and they used the school's digital camera for nudie shots. He pulled the pics off the camera onto his computer, but if you did a search of JPG it popped up a nude pic of here with the IP address of his computer. It stayed up there for months, then all of the sudden everyone had to log in as themselves. Copies may have been made. I saw this homeless guy take a shit all over the side of a Wells Fargo. I was in 6th grade. An 11th grade babysitter was watching me at the pool. Every time she got out of the pool her bathing suit sagged and I saw her vagina. I crafted a game that required a race to get out of the pool. Granted, she won about 1,000 times in a row. Senior trip after graduation. It was my best friend's girlfriend. I'd had a crush on her through middle school, but was mostly over it, had my own GF/now fiance. Now what's crazy is that of the 3 guys and 5 girls on the trip, I was the only one who hadn't seen her boobs, which she had commented on the previous night. We were all close, the girls had shared shower facilities before and the other 2 Guya had/word dated her. We were on jet skis and a pontoon. She was getting off the jet ski and took off her life jacket. Bikini top came with. She didn't notice immediately, so I got a surprise look at one of the most attractive people I've ever met. And now we've all seen her boobs. The gif of the suited boy dropping it low and then his trousers rip and his balls flop. I stumbled into a bathroom drunkenly and girls were getting changed. They didn't seem to mind, though. I shared an apartment with a few guys in college and one roommate had a ridiculously hot girlfriend. One night around 1 AM I'm sitting at my computer in my room and she walks in stark naked as she confused my door and the bathroom door. Unfortunately, her boyfriend was the kind of stupid to mix ammonia and bleach as a super cleaning spray, so they are both likely dead. Well, it certainly wasn't dad's spare ass rocketing up and down on top of mum. That sucked. The first time I ever saw a girl's downstairs in person was at a concert when I was maybe 12 years old. I was going to the bathroom and of course there was a huge line for the women's room, so they started coming into the men's room. Inevitably all of the stalls filled up and it was at that point I walked in the bathroom. There she was, a goddess among drunkards. She was a mid-20s brunette and as far as I can remember she was perfect in every way. She went for a stall and then realized they were full. Without any hesitation she beelined for an open urinal. I was horribly confused with my head half cocked to the side thinking, what is this lady doing? As soon as she dropped through I realized what was going on and I don't think my eyes could have opened any wider. This was it, my first live cooter. She peeled down those tight jeans and went for it. I was completely fixated and couldn't look away. Landing strip. Jackpot. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I had seen it before in old dirty magazines, so I thought she must do porn. Holy cow. I am looking at a real-life porn star. Of course, I later realized that she probably wasn't a porn star, but I like to believe she was. Anyway, I was smiling ear to ear for the rest of the night and that image has stuck with me nearly 20 years later. Now that I think about it, that first experience probably helps explain some of my messier fetishes. Wasn't accidental. Went to France with my family when I was about 10 or 11. We got to the beach and I couldn't believe it, topless women everywhere. Let's just say I had to lay front down on the sand for the majority of the holiday. When I was in high school I was deep in the friend zone with this girl I was infatuated with. I was at her house and she came out of the shower wrapped in a towel that accidentally came off and I got to see everything. Back in high school I had a small Toyota Tercel, great car that was easy to drive. So one night I'm hanging at my buddy's house and I'm in the car with another friend, because we were picking up my friend whose house we were at. I let my friend test drive around the block. Also it's like 3 AM and this lady is just on her porch butt naked standing like if she was waiting for someone while our headlights straight on her. So she turns around and slowly walks in her house looking back at us. It was great. I was 18, at my girlfriend's oldest brother's wedding. Brother and his fiancée were late 20s. Since I wasn't family, they gave me a mid-90s camcorder that belonged to the church to film some behind-the-scenes stuff of everyone in the wedding party getting dressed and talking shit. So I'm conducting the bride interview, the only guy in the room. Typical, the groom isn't supposed to see her until she's walking down the aisle stuff. Her girlfriends are alternating between cooing over her and teasing her about sex on the wedding day, and meanwhile she's sending her groom sweet messages for him to see on the video later. Then, the bride nonchalantly tries to adjust her dress while talking to me. Both of her perfect, beautiful, tanned, late 20s breasts pop out and come to rest on top of that white wedding dress. I mean, it was pretty much the director's notes for a bride porn scene, just a ridiculously sexy brunette with her perky tits out, in a wedding dress. There is one saving grace keeping me and my 18-year-old libido from a future tifu about public erections. I'm witnessing all of this through the tiny and dimly lit preview window of a mid-90s camcorder. The camera was heavy, and bulky, and did not belong to me, so I was slowed by both a lack of situational awareness and a growing sense of self-doubt in my skills as a camcorder operator. By the time I process what I'm seeing and try to figure out what the hell I should do about it, everyone else, fiancé, her girlfriends, my girlfriend, her sister, and the mothers, is cracking up. While I robotically hold the camera straight ahead with one hand, frantically clawing for the stop button with the other. The fiancé covers up before I finally look up from the camera, red-faced and sweating like I had stared into the sun. On video, I caught a few glorious seconds of the best tits I would see for at least another 4 years. Yes, better than my girlfriends. Remember, I was 18, full of myself, and still able to be ruthlessly objective. They would not allow me to review the footage to delete it, oddly enough. And, it turns out they kept the footage and gave it to the groom later. He joked with me about it, and nobody, including my girlfriend, was remotely mad at me. My ineptitude combined with shitty video technology to make me a hero for a day. And hey, I saw perfect bride boobs that filled my spank bank for years to come for a long time. TL, doctor, first to see the bride's titties on her wedding day, and I wasn't getting married. Got thanked for it. Showing a coworker a video on my phone. My girlfriend sends me a picture to show me she got rid of her bush. Went from my coworker watching a video to teaching me how to turn off text preview. 2 stories, can't tell what one is best. I was catching a bus into town, and this being the UK, it's a double-decker one. I'm sitting on the top deck and hear a couple of teenagers behind me start giggling and chuckling. I turn around and see what the fuss is about. Turns out a woman in a house we are stopped next to is getting dressed and has everything on display. Being on the first floor, she wasn't expecting anybody to be at eye level. Second one, maybe not really accidental on her behalf. I was on holiday in Spain and at the hotel is a stunning blonde woman. I'm about 6 foot and she's at least 4 inches taller than me. Not freakish tall, but eye-catching tall. Later found out she was Dutch, that explains the height. So I'm outside our room one evening having a drink with the girlfriend's dad and we hear some Spanish workers talking excitedly. We see what they are talking about. In the room directly opposite us is this tall woman getting changed in front on the full-length mirror. She's only in a thong and spends the next 5 minutes adjusting it, pulling up each side, pulling it out her ass crack only to pull it up again, looking at herself from different angles. Once she's satisfied, she then comes to the window and gives the staff a friendly wave before closing the curtains. This happened every day for the next week. Walked out the back door of a bar and into the alley looking for my friend, caught him and a girl with a prosthetic leg having sex. Only got weird when I heard her yell at him, "Take my leg off and spank me with it." I was at Barton Springs in Austin, Texas a few years back. For anyone who doesn't know, it's an outdoor pool area fed by a natural spring. My wife and I were walking around looking for a spot to sit down and I noticed a pretty blonde woman sunbathing in a solid black two-piece bikini. She was laying on her right side and her left breast had fallen out of her bikini top, exposing her light pink nipple. That beautiful image has been burnt into my mind. Alright. Okay. I got this. Hold on Reddit. It's about to get serious. So, few years back I had a shared Dropbox with a friend my wife and I were very close with. She's my son's godmother. Basically I would procure books, movies and whatever she wanted and throw it into Dropbox and she would download it on her side, or she would upload photos she took of my son and I would download it from my side. It worked well because we were in different states. So I have this shortcut linked in the desktop of my shared laptop. No big deal. Nothing illicit. So one day I'm at work and I get this call. It's the wife. Important note. She was over at my house when this happened. So, want to tell me what's going on between you and her? Huh? W, I saw the nudes she sends you. W, it's on the Dropbox account you guys share. You know what? Fuck you. I'm going to ask her huh? Sidebar. She's the definition of porgso. Yes. Now. I haven't received nudes. I was not aware of nudes. But good fucking god, now that I know that they're there, I'm going to look at some nudes. So I grab my phone and I'm trying to download the app, log on and good fucking god I'm going to seeing some T&A. So I log on. It's giving me a loading screen. I'm watching this fucking circle move. It's loading something. Then boom. I'm seeing a page of thumbnails. Shit. There's like 12 pictures on the first page. Full frontal. Side. Back. That shit is glorious. And then my phone rings. It's the wife. Holy shit. God damn it. Why? Okay. I pick up. Okay. We figured it out. She didn't realize that she's been syncing the Dropbox with her iPhone photos. She just deleted it. Oh, okay. No big deal. Yeah, I was super confused on what was happening. I was busy with customers and I couldn't even check W. It wasn't that impressive. You didn't miss anything. But it's gone now. I twitch. Okay, good. Gotta get to work. I hung up the phone. Dropbox reloaded. Nothing. It was blank. So, she was taking daily photos of herself to keep track of her new exercise and diet plan. I saw everything. And it was taken away. Only thumbnails. My girlfriend sent me nudes of her dog instead of herself by mistake. That's right. The dog was naked. Like completely naked. I was never completely sure if this was accidental or not. 9th grade I had a semi-sort of friendship with this girl. We only ever really hung out when she wasn't dating. When she was on my regular walk home with rotation. We had gym class together. I like water, so during our pool rotation I always hung back for every single second I could get in the water. It was free swim when the bell rang. I was dodging coach in the dive pool. She was the last out of the other pool, walks over to get her towel, dries off a bit, then she adjusts her swimsuit. It was a one piece. She hooked her thumbs and ran them from the shoulder down to her crotch, saw everything revealed, then covered back up as her thumbs passed. Then she did the same to the epic wedgie she had and she walks to the girls' locker room. Never looked in my direction, so I have no clue if she knew I was there or not. She never said anything when I walked her home that day. She did give me some shit for blushing more than usual. I mentioned this in another thread a few days back. I was in a child development class back in high school. I was one of 3 guys in the class. One day in class this girl dropped her pencil and went to pick it up. and her shirt exposed her nipple. I said to one of the guys who was next to me, "Hey, I just saw Shani's nipple." Without skipping a beat he yelled, "You saw whose nipple?" The class went dead silent and everyone stared at me. The funniest part is one of my good friends was delivering a note from his teacher to mine, so he heard the whole thing, and was laughing hysterically as he left the room. It was almost 10 years ago, but super memorable. I was on my first business trip ever and checked into my room in a very nice hotel in the middle of a big city. Once in my room, I checked out the view from my room and noticed that there was a high-rise condo building straight across from me, and, in the window, straight in front of me, there was a woman in bra and panties checking herself out in a mirror. She then took them off, put another set on, checked herself out. This went on for a good 15 minutes. Another time, I was living in a big sprawling apartment complex and used to go out for walks in the morning with my wife. The apartment buildings were 2 stories and many of the walkways in the complex went right past the windows of the first-story apartments. We walked by one bedroom window, which was open with curtains drawn, and there was a woman lying on top of her bed sleeping completely naked. My name is Nick, my friend's name is Nick. Nick's GF had both our numbers and accidentally texted me a nude instead of him. I was in 8th grade at the local wannabe swim park at a year-end choir party. One of the other girls in choir dove off of the middle platform, climbed up the later shortly after I did, and her bikini top was off to the side. I couldn't stop staring. She smiled, covered them up, I told her to go ahead, and things were normal between us at school, at least as far as I knew. I'm a dude and I was at the girls' sectional swim meet, support the girls team. About halfway through the meet I need to go to the bathroom, but I have the great idea of going down to the boys' locker room instead of going out to the bathroom. Well, since only girls were swimming, half of the teams got the boys' locker room. I walk in and see a girl fully clothed. I looked at her in confusion as I turned a corner and saw a girl grab the top of her suit and pull it down, showing everything. I promptly turned away and went to an actual bathroom. Haven't seen much, but once I was at a party, had to stay the night because I lived in another town. The girl who owned the apartment had one of those kind of old-fashioned dresses that barely kept things in place, and on top of that she had quite big breasts. So after all the other guests had left and only her, myself and her roomie were left in the apartment, I went to bed in their kitchen on a mattress. Probably because she was drunk, she somehow did not realize her one boob was literally hanging out of her dress. It was a nice boob, perfect cup size to nipple ratio and all, and I had pretty much wanted to see her naked since forever but never made a move. So it was kind of a so that's how it looks, now am I no moment. Sadly she turned off the lights pretty quickly before leaving the room, so I didn't get to see much at all, really. I was kind of hoping it was done deliberately, since it literally looked like she had pulled her dress down herself, but sadly I didn't get any other hints that this might be the case. The morning after she either did not remember or pretended like nothing. It's actually kinda funny. A few weeks ago I came out of the shower. I was alone in the house, so I just went butt naked to my room because I prefer air drying. I kinda always forget there's a huge window out to the world right where my closet is, so I was just chilling finding clothes. I look out and I spot a naked dude in the apartment across. He was folding his laundry. I didn't get to cover myself before he looked my way. We had eye contact for a second before we both jumped to cover. It was so fucking awkward but so funny at the same time. He had a nice butt. Degrees. Up until 3rd grade my high school and elementary school used the same buses to get us all to school. The high school was just next door. They pick up the high schoolers first, then the elementary schoolers. I was the first to get on the bus, and as I was getting on the bus, one of the high school girls for some reason was changing her shirt as her friend blocked her. But her friend dropped something and bent down to pick it up, and my 3rd grade eyes were blessed with the most perfect high school girl boobies, no bra. As she pulled her shirt down over her head she looked directly at me, jaw on the floor. She looked at me and put a finger to her lips, making the shush gesture, then gave me a sexy wink. It was the most glorious moment of my entire 3rd grade year. Just over 2 years ago I went snowboarding out west for my first time. We went to Colorado and hit Keystone and Vail and stayed in Beaver Creek. I am from the Midwest, so seeing the mountains for my first time was absolutely breathtaking. I found myself just staring off into the mountains at every available opportunity. After our first day of snowboarding at Keystone, we drove into Beaver Creek where we stayed for the trip. We were all super sore and realized our condos had a hot tub and pool, so we grabbed beers and headed on out to the hot tub. The sun was close to setting, so I was sitting there beer in hand, staring at the mountains and just started looking around. We were surrounded by about 3 stories of condos to each side and happened upon a naked dude on the 3rd floor staring down at us, waiting to gain our attention. Once my eyes made contact to his, he started swinging his wang around like a helicopter and started yelling "whoa" like Ric Flair. Everyone heard me yell "what the fuck" and looked up to witness what I had saw. I'm kinda surprised he didn't fly away. My younger sister had this really hot friend. I was a senior in high school and sister and her friend were sophomores. She brought her friend over to our family's backyard swimming pool. The girls were swimming and I was in the pool house bathroom. Looked up and my sister was nowhere to be seen. I watched her friend dive into the pool, then she slowly got out, climbing up the ladder onto the pool deck. She smiled at me and said, "Hi Brad, you know how cute I always thought you were." She then unclasped her red bikini top from the front, revealing some gorgeous tits while she continued to walk slowly towards me. Turned out I was just fantasizing, however, and she walked in on me on the shitter while I was rubbing one out. Child actor in regional theater production, about 10 years old, crossed backstage at a time I normally didn't, only to accidentally stumble across a 21-year-old Amy Adams doing a quick change. First mostly naked woman I ever saw in real life. I think my voice dropped an octave in that moment. The only time I saw a boob on antenna TV. Probably in the 80s in the Midwest when I was a kid. It was on the Benny Hill show. It was a scene where Benny Hill was looking up at a window high up somewhere, castle maybe, and this woman came to the window and she briefly flashed a tit and then turned away. It was portrayed as accidental in the skit. It is possible the rest is that Benny Hill gets a ladder and climbs up and it is a shade that is drawn that has a nude woman painted on it. The shade comes up and it is this ugly woman. And Benny Hill has a negative reaction. That is all I remember. It is possible that I've mixed up 2 skits involving Benny Hill and windows. There were several. I always wanted to find that clip, but gave up. Friend I used to surf with when we were 16 had really nice 12Ds. She wore a strapless bikini top one session. During the surf, twice I had to cover her up with my board while she repositioned her fallen top, but she hid well. After the surf she wanted to get the sand off her board, so stands on the shore break washing it, gets dunked, comes back up with perky, double poppage, completely oblivious. She starts walking to me laughing, embarrassed she got dropped by a little short wave, and I'm just staring, pointing. She realized and runs over so I can once again make a cover with my board so she can get it back on without the whole beach seeing. I was very happy. I have a list. All these are a joint number 1: wife's sisters. On separate occasions, they forgot I was at the family home and wandered through in the buff. Daughter of a neighbor. I met her, we chatted. It was hot so she took her top off. It took her vest top off too, she had no bra on. On a ferry, on deck watching the view. It was windy and a lady was, for the first 2 times, unaware the wind was lifting her short skirt up. She turned and gave us all a view of the front. She was going commando that day. A very sexy woman in a tight dress getting on her scooter. Had to get her leg over, giving a great view. Added bonus of no underwear. These, among a few others, stayed in the bank for a long time. One of the Amish chicks in my town lifted her dress up a little to scratch her leg. I saw her whole ankle. I shoot weddings. I'm usually out of the room when the bride is putting on her dress and I'm called in just as she is about to be buttoned up, etc., so I can get that shot. I guess I was called in just a second too early and saw her nicely toned bare ass as the dress was closing up behind. 10/10 the groom is a very lucky man. No, I didn't have the camera rolling. Edit, just dawned on me that she was wearing no panties the entire time. Can I go with worst? I went to my grandma's house, oh yay, that's where this is going. I knocked forever, but she was hard of hearing, so I just walked in enough time to see my 86-year-old grandma streaking across her house. My eyes. This isn't quite the teenage fantasy material that others have posted, but it was glorious nonetheless. I work as a tour guide, and one afternoon I was coming into NYC via the Lincoln Tunnel in stop-and-go traffic. These student groups I work with travel by coach bus, which allows a pretty good view into passing cars. I was sitting at the front, chatting with THR teachers when, out of nowhere, all kids rushed to one side of the bus. I looked down and, lo and behold, some beautiful young lady was giving this guy solid roadhead. Teachers and I had a laugh, and the kids watched for 10 minutes as this guy got his rocks off around hundreds of people. Definitely the most memorable thing about that trip was working as a lifeguard for a pool in a private gated community. I let this girl I had a crush on and her friends sneak in without paying. Then when they were hanging out by the diving board, her suit got caught on something and ripped off. They asked if I saw anything and I said no way. Definitely saw 100% of those titties. I was 12 years old and my best friend's mom was hot. I loved going to his house because he had a pinball machine and a swimming pool and I would get to see his mom in a bikini. One morning I was playing pinball in the extra bedroom. Directly behind me was his parents' bedroom. My friend had left with his dad to pick up donuts from the bakery down the street. I could hear the shower running but thought nothing of it. In the middle of playing I hear her say, "My name. Are you in there?" I replied yes. She said please turn the other way. I was already turned away playing pinball but could clearly see the reflection in the glass. She exited the bathroom completely nude and had the most smoking body. She threw on a thin robe and said okay it's alright now, and continued to put on lotion and makeup and whatnot. I still wanna believe she left the door open on purpose. This was the most erotic moment in my life at this point. I was 12 and that material got me through puberty. I've had quite a few. First was when I was around 7 years old. I was with my aunt in the car when we passed by a bus stop. I was just staring out of the window when all of a sudden this girl sitting there at the stop has her top slip right off and a huge tit pops out. My eyes shot open, I couldn't believe it lol. Second was at 8th grade trip to a water park. The ride that's basically a vertical drop straight down is known for rearranging clothing and I was hanging around there waiting for friends when some girl's top goes flying upwards. Then later in the day at the concession stand some girl was talking to her friend and I noticed her boob was coming out. I was like Dave Chappelle in that Mitsubishi skit where he's staring at the girl's tit wishing it had come out. Sure enough, it popped out and I just kept staring at it until her friend told her that it had popped out. Then more recently, a few years ago at Papa's and Beer, two wasted girls caught everyone's attention when one started licking alcohol off of the other's body. The guy who worked there kept pouring. She eventually pulled the girl's tit out and started sucking on it. Trips to Mexico are the best. Saw a group of 6 college girls streak against our dorm's courtyard. Best memory of college ever. Wish I would have had a camera in hand. Mine is the closest I came to accidental nudity. There was a girl in my first college that had the best ass ever. In jeans it was perfect, in a bathing suit perfect, just absolutely amazing. Well, one day I had to borrow Spanish homework from her, so I told her I would be by her dorm. My buddy was with me, so we get into the dorm and for some stupid fucking reason I ask my buddy to race up the stairs like a 6-year-old kid. I hate stairs, especially running up them, so I am not sure why I got the urge. We race up the stairs and get to her dorm room and see her doors open a bit. We just walk in to see her about to pull off her towel because she just got out of shower. She was surprised and my friend just looks at me and goes, "You fucking idiot, you just had to race up those stairs. If not we could have seen her naked." We begin to bicker right in front of her. If we would have just walked up the stairs like normal people we would have gotten to see her perfect ass and maybe her tits. She was cool and logied when we explained what happened, but she never showed us her bare bottom. I still think about that day, frown. I help out as an athletic trainer at my university, and I have noticed that it always happens with athletes. It probably isn't even an accident, they're just that confident with their bodies. It's a major tease because I go to a D1 university and these people are incredibly fit and then they're just suddenly half naked. Because I'm helping as an at, I have to turn around and ask them to put their clothes back on so I don't get in any sort of trouble. I have nothing to complain about. I've seen both guys and girls just stripping in front of me and I'm just like, Jesus, you're fit. Hopefully not too late to the party, but I was walking home to my condo one night around 9ish. There's a row of cars parallel parked but one of them was running with the lights off. As I got to the car, passenger side, I glanced over and there is just this girl's bare ass in the window. She was basically kneeling on seat and giving the driver a BJ. She was wearing a skirt and the guy had pulled her thong to the side, was reaching around her ass and just finger blasting her. I was too stunned to do anything so I just kept on walking. They were parked right under a street light too so you could see everything. I don't know what they were thinking. Had a 7th grade science teacher would wear a skirt and no underwear and sit on desks in front of students usually with her legs not crossed. Thinking about it now I'm not sure if this qualifies as accidental. I was walking down 6th Street in Austin. The restaurants and bars will open almost their whole walls to the street in the summer. There was one barbecue joint with a mechanical bull next to the street to draw people in, and a top-heavy girl in a tube top hopped on top of the thing. I saw it happen in my head before real life, of course. The tube top slides down as the bull starts to buck. Titties were flying everywhere. I am only surprised that the poor girl didn't end up with a black eye. Worked with only girls for about 5 years. One of them was supermodel hot. Opened the bathroom door one day and saw her standing there, breasts hanging out. I hurriedly shut the door apologizing, but those sweet tat-tats are forever burned into my retinas. There is a reason I have such a hard-on and a heart-on for older women, and it's because of some accidental nudity. I was hanging out with this really kind and sweet older woman I knew, and at one point she tried to take off her sweater in the suddenly warm weather but her t-shirt underneath went along for the ride. I got front row seats to the 3rd biggest set of beautiful tits I've ever seen in my life. Technically she was wearing a bra, plain design, subdued pink color, but her nipples peeked out. I couldn't hide the reaction on my face. Fortunately I wasn't grinning like a freak, but I blushed harder than I've ever blushed before. I'll never forget those tits. It worked out well enough in the end. We dated for a while. I got to see them again, along with the rest of her. When I was 9 my brother was married and I was playing PlayStation with him when his wife got home with groceries, and she didn't notice I was there yet, so after she put the groceries down and went into the bedroom, she came out a few minutes later wearing just her bra and underwear. I saw nipples and my jaw dropped to the floor as she screamed, "Oh my God." I didn't know he was here. I think back on that day fondly. I've told this story before. Came down from my apartment to ask my neighbors, all female, if they wanted to come drink, hang out, and play games up in our place. Big windstorm, no Penn State game that weekend. Knocked on the door, one woman lets me in. She says she's not interested, and K&T aren't home, but maybe V is interested. So we both go and she knocks on the door. But the door was ajar, and the knocks pushed the door open. To reveal this Persian-Italian 20-something former field hockey player in her very shapely birthday suit, and was surprised just long enough for me to both get a fantastic look, and also be a gentleman and turn away before she herself covered herself. She was not, however, interested in joining us, because she had an early shift at work the next morning. Yes, we laughed about it afterwards. Signals may have been missed on my part afterwards, but that was just how I was in college. Once in college, me and my friends were leaving the downstairs cafeteria, and above us was a bridge. Cute girl with a big booty walks across said bridge, and a gust blows up her skirt. I'll never forget that booty. She noticed that I noticed, and I decided it was a good idea to moon her later so that we'd be even. I was working at this lady's house installing windows once, and she was wearing a loose shirt, probably on purpose. She had huge tits, and at one point at the end of the day she leaned over to point something out and her shirt got caught on something, so when she stood up, her shirt pulled down and her big old boobies bounced right out.